Have you ever wondered why we have an innate sense of goodness, morality, and empathy? Why even from a young age we understand concepts like kindness, fairness, and compassion? In the face of evil and suffering in this world, have you questioned how we can maintain hope and meaning? Today I want to share with you what I believe to be the clearest proof that God dwells within each and every one of us. This proof lies in our shared humanity, in our ability to love and care for one another despite our differences. It resides in our innate sense of right and wrong, and our pursuit of truth, justice, and mercy even in the darkest of times. The ancient Greeks had a concept they called the nous. The nous referred to the part of the soul or mind which is said to perceive divine reason and truth. Plato and Aristotle wrote about the nous as the place where we contemplate the fundamental forms and experience spiritual awakening. They taught that this part of our humanity allows us to comprehend goodness, justice, and harmony. The Christian scriptures support this classical idea of an intrinsic divine discernment within man. In the book of Romans, it says that God has shown man his eternal power and divine nature. Romans 1:20 goes on to say that what can be known about God is plain to us because God has made it plain within our very nature. This suggests that from the beginning, humanity was endowed with the capacity to perceive its Creator. Some major clues from biblical tradition point to the idea that God dwells within each person. In Genesis 2:7, it says that God formed man from the dust of the earth and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. The Hebrew word used here for breath is neshama, which can also mean spirit. So God endowed humanity with divine spirit or breath at our creation. According to the biblical narrative, all people derive from the first man and woman, Adam and Eve, meaning we share a common origin and essence as children of God. Jesus himself reiterated this truth, saying in Acts 17:26 that God made from one man every nation of mankind. We are all branches from the same tree of humanity. Additionally, a number of Bible verses point to an indwelling divine presence within man. Perhaps most famously, Jesus promises his disciples in the Gospel of John that he and the Father will make our home with anyone who loves me and obeys my commandments. John 14:23. This concept of Jesus and God living within believers is echoed by Apostle Paul when he writes that Christ dwells in your hearts through faith. Ephesians 3:17. From a spiritual and philosophical perspective, sages throughout history have noted that humanity seems innate inclined towards certain ethical virtues, like compassion. Even young children who have not been exposed to religious teachings display a basic sense of what is right and wrong. Psychologists have found that concepts like fairness develop very early in human cognitive development, suggesting our consciences have deep evolutionary and possibly even transcendental roots. In his seminal work, A Theory of Justice, philosopher John Rawls proposed that rational and impartial individuals would agree upon certain ethical principles from an original position behind a veil of ignorance. This implies that basic precepts of justice, like treating all people with equal dignity and respect, align with human reason itself. We seem hardwired to value community, solidarity, and care for the weak, inclinations many faiths attribute to our having been made in the image of a perfectly loving God. Many indigenous cultures and wisdom traditions around the world have long taught that the divine is present in all people. For instance, Aboriginal Australians believe in the dream time, a sacred era in which spiritual ancestors created the natural world and imbued it with life-giving energy or dreaming. All individuals are said to carry a portion of these ancestral figures within, linking each person to the primordial creative spirits. In Hindu and Buddhist traditions, the concept of Atman, or eternal soul, refers to the divine spark residing at the core of every person. Religions like Jainism emphasize the essential divinity inherent in all beings. Native American traditions often speak of the Great Spirit, indwelling within human and non-human creation alike. Across diverse lands and epochs, humankind seems to have recognized its inherent connection to transcendence through spiritual intuition, rather than outer revelation alone. Thus, the perception of an internal divine presence, what the Greeks called nous, resonates universal and finds support both philosophically and from many religious worldviews. But what exactly is the nature of this intrinsic divine spark or soul that we all appear to share? I believe the deepest proof that God truly dwells within us lies not just in spiritual intuition, but in the outflowing of perfect love we see manifest between human beings. In his first letter, John the Evangelist powerfully declares that God is love. 1 John 4:8. This means the essence of deity is perfect, unconditional, and selfless love. And reflections of this quality can indeed be seen in humanity, in our capacity for compassion, forgiveness, sacrifice, and care for one another. Even more so in great leaders and saints throughout history who exemplified divine virtues like service, courage, non-violence, and reconciliation to exceptional degrees. Think for a moment of figures like Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa. Despite facing immense difficulties and prejudice, these individuals responded with extraordinary patience, wisdom, and goodwill rather than retaliation or hatred. Their lives bore witness through both words and actions to the infinite love they claimed resided at the core of existence. They revealed what human beings are capable of when allowing that divine spark within to ignite and shine forth. We all have the potential to activate this innate spiritual power of love within ourselves as well. Moments when we spontaneously decide to show kindness to a stranger, forgive an enemy, value another person's human dignity above all differences. These glimpses into higher human nature reflect nothing less than the very image and character of our Creator. For God is love, as Apostle John declared, and love is the surest proof that the origin of life and consciousness within us is from a perfect, unconditional source of goodness. Some might object that if God truly dwells within, why do we see so much evil and suffering in the world? To this question, we must acknowledge human free will. Part of being made in the image of God means having freedom to choose both good and evil. While divinity indwells each person as sustainer of life, humanity also has the capacity, through wretched acts of selfishness and brutality, to attempt suppressing, even killing, that innate spiritual light and love within. Yet its eternal spark can never be fully extinguished. Through turmoil and darkness, that inner flame of hope and compassion continues flickering within the human soul, waiting to be fanned back to radiance. And even in the face of depravity, we see glimmers of virtue too, as when some risk their lives saving strangers or stand for justice against oppression. Such acts of courage and self-sacrifice in an imperfect world constitute living proof of the indestructible divine seed within all people, ever beckoning us towards fulfillment of our highest nature. So in conclusion, I believe the living proof that God truly dwells at the core of our shared humanity lies in love, in our soul's innate grasp of unconditional goodness, our heart's continued longing for compassion, and life's eternal impulse towards fellowship, justice, mercy, and care. For God is love, and wherever love is found in its perfect manifestation, radiating to friend and foe alike, there too we glimpse something of the divine character. In our ability to lift one another towards the highest, through forgiveness, service, and reconciliation, even in adversity, we see reflections of our transcendent Creator, who fashioned us all and infused within the spark of sacred life. Let this truth ever give us hope. In closing, I'll leave you with words from the Gospel of John that so beautifully capture what I've tried to convey today. This is how God showed His love among us. He sent His one and only Son into the world that we might live through Him. This is love. Not that we loved God, but that He loved us and sent His Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. John 4:9-11. Thank you for listening. May you go from here renewed in spirit, strengthened by this knowledge that the divine indwells within you and within all people. And may you be empowered to reflect God's perfect love to others through compassionate words and selfless acts of goodness, fairness, courage, and care, revealing in small but radiant ways the eternal light that shines at the core of our shared humanity. God bless you.